Okay.
I've got a good one here if you've got time for it. I've got one that's interesting. And here's one that says, "Hi, Melody." This was directed to Melody at Discount Gold and Silver. It says, "Please do not mention my name or my email. I am a federal employee in D.C. Please call me Danielle." That's not a real name. And then she says, "Here's your question for Bob." The question fascinates me just because it indicates that even people working for the government are afraid of the government. She says, "With the inevitable collapse of the U.S. government, what is likely to happen to federal employees who are in their 20s to 40s? Will we have jobs? Will having an advanced education matter? Will being veterans matter? What do you recommend?" Thanks so much, Danielle.
Well, I think veterans might get some preference, but I think probably if we have a severe depression, that I would say 35% of federal employees could get fired. I don't think they'd have any other choice because no one's going to lend them any money, and you can't keep on monetizing. On the other hand, if it's 30 to 35% federal, it'll be 45 to 50% of the general population. I mean, this is going to be nasty. And, you know, all you have to do is go back and look at the Depression in the early 1870s, which was worse than the one in the 1930s, and you'll see that depressions are bad, and the only way they've ever gotten out of them is to have a war. And so you can expect a war. You can expect your children and grandchildren are going to be murdered by somebody else because of the greedy bankers in their quest for world government. And so that's what I expect to happen. So to answer your question, lots of people are going to be out of a job. Okay, here we go. From Dave. Just noticed the GM plus many billions were given to 3 of the 4 BRIC countries. He's talking about the manufacturing of vehicles by GM. Soon after those announcements, the dollar surged and gold and silver went down significantly. I don't think that has anything to do with one another. And the dollar is now back down again. It's tried 4 times to break above 81 on the USDX, and it can't do it. It's headed down. And we may see the dollar at 71.18 by the end of October, and Mr. Obama's approval rating will be about 40. It's about 53 in the general Illuminous control polls. But Rasmussen and the others now have him under 50. This guy's losing credibility real fast. Probably will be a one-term president also. Do you think that the BRIC countries helped the U.S. dollar in return for GM? No, I do not. And how long do you think this will continue? And I don't know what he means by this, but the dollar's going to get weaker. Gold and silver are going to get stronger. The stock market's going to go down, and I think that covers it. And I think it's disgusting that GM and others are moving their production out of the United States. And the last one I've got is from Ruben, and it's for Bob and Queen Melody. Oh, how about that? I hope she's listening today. And I'm in a position where I'd like to buy some numismatic coins, but I'm able to... Oh, I remember this one. Melody's going to have to answer this, so if you've got any questions there,
yeah, I've got a
give them to us, Alfred.
All right, I've got one here. Here's one, again, directed to Melody, but she says, this is from David. He says, "Dear Melody, my best regards to you and Bob. I'm interested to know what Bob thinks of a cashless society and what impact it would have on gold if it is achieved. Would it not be easy for the authorities to outlaw any trade outside the system in gold and silver? Also, on places to live outside the USA, for example, Panama. Do you think this or any other Central American country will not mandate taking flu vaccines for its citizens or residents? Thank you again for all your work. Again, we've got two questions here, one on immigration. Where's a good place to go if you want to get out? And the first one is, what do you think about a cashless society?
Cashless society would be a disaster for everybody everywhere. And the value of gold, I can't even venture to say what it would be. I just don't know. I don't know whether it would go up or go down or whether it all be in the black market. I can't tell you. All I know is you don't want it. And as far as places to go, Panama is a good place. It's rather expensive now. They have the dollar there. And there's a lot of Americans there. And so it's not as good a place to go to as it was before. Very humid there. San Jose, Costa Rica is on a 4,800-foot plateau, so the weather's really more temperate there, and it's a nice place to live. I've lived in both places, but there's not an awful lot to do in San Jose. But you do have the options of the Caribbean, which is about 2 hours away, and it's about 2.5 or 3 hours over to Guanacaste on the Pacific. There's also Santiago in Chile. The northern Chilean coast is very nice. It's warm. Skiing's only about 2 hours away in the mountains. If you like a pastoral type of surrounding, Montevideo in Uruguay is nice. It's a nice city, clean, nice people, not expensive. And there's Mexico. And Mexico is a very big country, very modern, more than most all the countries in Latin America. And it's easy to immigrate there, and particularly for retired people. And there's probably 20 or 30 cities of 750,000 to 1 million people that you could live in. And there's some cities where there's lots of Americans and Canadians and others who are non-Latino peoples. And so all of those places are good places to go to. It all depends on what you want. You go to Google them, look at the different cities, and what they have to offer and the temperature and all that kind of stuff. And one thing that Mexico does have is they have a kind of a net where if you can't get back to the United States under Medicare because you're ill, they have a program there that's, well, a husband and wife who are 70 years old, cost about $1,200 a year, and you can go in and get all the medical care you need. So they do have that medical net in Mexico, which they lose money on, of course, that's available. And the medical care and dental care in Mexico is extremely good. As good as the United States, if not better.
If we're talking about possibility of moving to a foreign country, what about people who don't want to emigrate? Is there a part of the United States that you would recommend more so than others?
Probably the Northwest, Idaho, Utah, and Montana. Their state governments are pretty good compared to others. I certainly wouldn't go to California. Mm-hmm. If they're ever going to have a revolution in America, it'll start there.
I've got a question for you. There was a meeting held earlier this week, Monday and Tuesday, at Yekaterinburg, Russia, attended by Chinese President Jintao, Russian President Medvedev, and other officials from Six Nations Shanghai Cooperation Organization. There was some concern that they wanted to replace the dollar as the world's reserve currency. I read the declaration that came out of that meeting. It was fairly tame. I was wondering what you might know about that meeting. Is it something of serious interest, or was it just a certain amount of white noise?
Very serious. it could change the path of history. That's how serious it was. And the United States tried to go. They asked to go, and they told them they didn't want them there. So this is for real.
Yeah.
And problematic for the United States. And they do want to get rid of the dollar, and they're trying to use SDRs, but they got to use gold backing if they want to use them, and SDRs do not have gold backing at this moment. And Russia brought that up. But I don't think it'll be an SDR. I think it'll be 10 major currencies, and those 10 major currencies will be a basket weighted that will be used, I think. But it's not going to be a one-world currency.